I think it's impossible.
Impossible to catch Gretzky?
It's impossible.
You could challenge it. You might be able to do
No.
it.
I have to have 6 seasons with 50 goals. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to skate in 6 seasons. So.
What you just saw was an interview between Elliotte Friedman and Alexander Ovechkin from October 2016. At the time, most people, including Ovechkin himself, believed Wayne Gretzky's record of 894 career goals would never be broken. It was a number frozen in time, far out of reach. More than just a record, it was a monument, a towering figure that stood untouched for decades. Some of the league's greatest players came and went, none of them got close. Gretzky's 894 became less of a target and more of a myth, something to admire, not something to chase. And before Ovechkin even entered the conversation, the road to Gretzky's 894 had already been paved by some of the league's most prolific scorers. To understand just how untouchable this record seemed, we need to go look back at the legends who chased it, the ones who came close, and how the title of the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer evolved through the decades. In the NHL's century-long history, the title of all-time goals leader has changed hands many times, but it all began with the league's first true sniper, Joe Malone. He battled with a few other early stars, but eventually became the first player to ever hit the 100-goal mark, finishing his career with 143. Granted, this was the kind of competition he was up against, but still, Malone was one of the most prolific goal scorers in hockey history. His reign at the top didn't last long, though, as just a week after his final goal, Cy Denny passed him with his 144th and kept climbing, finishing with 247 by 1928. He held the record for over a decade, becoming the league's top scorer of the 1920s. But that all changed in 1933 when Howie Morenz took the lead with his 248th. He'd go on to score 271 before wrapping up his career in 1937. Not long after that, Nels Stewart took the crown with his 272nd goal. He pushed the record to 324 and held on to it for more than 15 years, a stretch that saw the NHL scoring game slowly evolve. And then came Maurice "Rocket" Richard. In 1952, he passed Stewart with his 325th goal and never looked back. By the time he retired in 1960, Richard had scored 544 goals, becoming the first player to reach 500 goals and cementing his place as one of the game's all-time greats. In 1963, Mr. Hockey, Gordie Howe, passed Richard with his 545th goal and continued to add to his tally. Howe's title kept growing, and for the first time in NHL history, someone had reached the 600-goal mark. Then 700, then 800, then 801. Then in 1994, Wayne Gretzky, already considered the greatest player to ever play the game, surpassed Gordie Howe with his 802nd goal. But he didn't stop there. Gretzky pushed that goal record to a staggering 894 before retiring in 1999. It was a mark so high that, for decades, it seemed like it would be untouchable. It looked like Gretzky's record would stand forever. The sheer consistency, longevity, and skill required to even come close to that number, it was so rare, it was almost unfathomable to think anyone could break it. For someone to score 895 goals, they would have to average 45 goals a season for 20 seasons. That's a level of consistency that's nearly impossible in today's game, where players are facing tougher competition, faster play, and more physicality than ever before. It just seemed impossible, untouchable, a record that would stand for ages. The combination of talent, durability, and longevity needed to break it felt like something that could only exist in the realm of legend. But that was until Alexander Ovechkin. A generational scoring talent combined with the power and size of a freight train at blazing speed and the instincts of a true goal scorer. Add to that Ovechkin's relentless work ethic and his pure love for the game season after season, and you get the greatest goal scorer in NHL history. But before all of that, back when he was just getting started, Ovechkin was just another hyped-up prospect. October 5th, 2005, the NHL debut of the Russian prodigy, and it didn't take long.
Spins. Ovechkin fires, he scores! Alexander Ovechkin, welcome on board! Leclerc the save, one more time, he scores! Ovechkin!
He scored 2 goals in his first NHL game, and then went on to score 28 more goals over the next 42 games, putting his career total at 30 goals. Even though he was third in the league in goals, no one was really thinking about the goal record at the time. He was still about 850 away from breaking it, and he was only 40 games into his career. But then came January 15th, 2006. Just a normal regular season game between the Phoenix Coyotes and the Washington Capitals. This was the first instance where maybe the goal record could be broken was even mentioned.
894 goals, so that means Alex is only 860 behind. Good luck, Mr.
How about
Ovechkin.
those points, Joe?
Good luck.
Though the announcers joked about it and no one really took it seriously, but that was until Ovechkin did this later that same exact game.
Storming in, Alexander Ovechkin curl and drag to the back end. He scores! Simply sensational!
Many claim this to be the most skilled goal of all time, and it truly showed how good this kid was. And watching from the Phoenix bench that night, none other than Wayne Gretzky, the man whose record seemed untouchable for so long, and for just a split second, he might have wondered if his legendary record was in jeopardy. After a 52-goal rookie season followed by 46 in his sophomore year, Ovechkin had reached 100 career goals in just 167 games, and Ovechkin wasn't slowing down. Just a few seasons later, he hit another huge milestone, his 200th goal, doing so just 122 games after reaching 100. Then, in a slightly slower stretch throughout his career, he had hit 300 in his 473rd game. Despite a bit of a slower pace for his next 100 goals, Ovechkin's scoring was still a hot topic, especially when it came to the idea of him chasing down the all-time goal record. And in 2010, ESPN's John Bucharest threw out one of the first real predictions about Ovechkin's potential to break the unbreakable Gretzky record. At the time, Ovechkin was just 24, and Bucharest did the math, saying that if Ovechkin kept his pace and stayed healthy, he could actually surpass Gretzky's 894 by the age of 40. And of course, to get there, Ovechkin would need to stay in peak form, avoid injuries, and somehow manage to string together a few more 50-goal seasons. But hey, if anyone could do it, it seems like it might just be Ovechkin, right? Before you knew it, Ovechkin had hit 400 goals in just 634 games. Gretzky reached that same milestone faster, doing it in just 436 games, but the gap was starting to narrow. Ovi scored goals 500 and 501 in his 801st game, while Gretzky got there in 575. Then came goal number 600 in game 990 for Ovechkin compared to Gretzky's 718 games. And it was around this time that the grade 8 breaking Wayne Gretzky's record was likely a when and not an if. That same year, The Athletic's Dom Luszczyszyn wrote an article looking at what it would take for Ovechkin to break Gretzky's goal record. To get this number, he used modest predictions. He factored in how players usually decline with age, Ovi's likely to drop in ice time, and the fact that he had played in 97% of games during his career. If Ovi stayed healthy, scored around 40 goals a season for a couple more years, and then 30 goals a year for a few after that, he could break the record by age 41. It wasn't going to be easy, but if anyone could pull it off, it would be Ovechkin. And with the possibility of breaking the record now seriously being discussed, Ovechkin just kept climbing. Ovechkin scored his 800th goal in his 1305th game, and just 5 games later, he passed Gordie Howe to become the second all-time leading goal scorer. Now, only one challenge remained: the final climb, 92 goals to catch Gretzky. After another 31-goal season, Ovi sat just 42 goals away from 895. And then, on April 6th, 2025, exactly 21 years to the date that the Capitals won the 2004 draft lottery, he did it.
Right side to Wilson, centered up. Ovechkin has it, he scores! He scores! Alex Ovechkin scores 895!
In a season where he broke his leg and somehow came back even stronger, Ovechkin scored goal number 895, passing Wayne Gretzky to become the NHL's all-time leading goal scorer. It was poetic. Both legends with 1487 games played, but now the numbers read a little bit differently. The grade 8 stood alone. For a long time now, the idea that hitting 40 goals makes you an elite goal scorer has stood true. It's a major achievement, and it's seen as the benchmark for being able to produce in this league, and Ovechkin made it seem routine. But even with that kind of production, 40 goals a year, the math is staggering. If a player averaged 40 goals a season, an elite mark, and stayed healthy enough to play 75+ games every season, it would still take more than 22 years just to hit the 880 goal mark. To reach 895, you need to have perfect health, incredible consistency, and over 2 decades of dominance. Which brings us to the obvious question: if anyone could do it, who would it be? Right now, the record feels safe. Very safe. But that hasn't stopped the hockey world from asking who's next. When looking at the NHL's active goal leaders right now, a few names stand out. Sidney Crosby has 623, Steven Stamkos has 582, Malkin has 512, Tavares has 493, and Patrick Kane has 491. These players have defined a generation of hockey and are all likely Hall of Famers. But as impressive as their totals are, even with optimistic projections, the math just doesn't add up. But what about the young guys? What about the next wave of superstars? That's where this conversation really starts to heat up. Players like Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and David Pastrnak are all under 30 years old and already have goal totals that stand out. Matthews, in particular, has become the face of modern goal scoring with a rocket of a shot and a pace that has fans and analysts alike wondering if he could be the guy to make a run. He's already scored 60 goals in a season twice, something Ovechkin only did once. He's also averaging around 0.65 goals per game for his career, right in the ballpark of Ovi's early years. Statistically, Matthews is slightly ahead of the pace. McDavid might just be the most dominant offensive player we've seen since Gretzky, but even at his current pace, just over half a goal per game, he'd need more than 1,000 more games to catch Ovechkin. That's over 12 full seasons, meaning he'd have to keep up his level of scoring into his 40s. Doable? Maybe, but it's a massive ask. Then there's his running mate Leon Draisaitl, but he'd also need close to 1,000 more games. Again, more than a dozen healthy, productive seasons. And Pastrnak, he's actually scoring slightly faster than both those guys, but he'd still need over 970 more games to reach 895. So they've got the talent, no question, but to actually catch Ovechkin, it's not just about hockey skill, it's about staying elite for almost 2 entire decades. That's the part that makes it feel nearly impossible to break, and that's just to reach 895. The thing is, Ovechkin's not done. At 39 years old, he's still finding the back of the net. I mean, he scored 40 plus this year. He's under contract with the Capitals through the 25-26 season, and as long as he stays healthy, there's little reason to believe he'll slow down drastically anytime soon. Even with a modest decline, if Ovechkin averages around 30 and 35 goals a season for the next 2 to 3 years, he could realistically finish his career somewhere between 950 and 980 goals. And if he gets there, who's to say he won't go for 1,000? So while 895 is the number now, by the time Ovechkin hangs up the skates, that record might just be pushed even further. And suddenly what felt impossible before might just become untouchable all over again. So the next time someone says a record is unbreakable, remember that 2016 interview. Remember Ovechkin's grin as he said it would never happen. And then remember what came next. Season after season, goal after goal, until the impossible became history.